Oh, hi there. Did not know you would be here. That's a lie, I did. I was asked to do this. Anyway, my name is Lucas Saltz, and I am an RF standards engineer for Verizon Wireless. Who is Verizon, you may ask? You've never heard of them. Small company, I'm sure. They are a telecommunications company, among other things, but I'm going to focus today on telecommunications since my position is an RF standards engineer. I work on the radio access network side. What does an RF standards engineer do? As the name may imply, I work on standards. So I help set standards for RF engineers, and kind of RF engineers, they do a lot of cell site design, the equipment that goes on towers, on small cells, the antennas, the radios, things of that nature. My standards we set for when you use which radios or configurations under what circumstances. How do you determine when a cell site is out of capacity and needs additional offload solutions? And then when we have all those solutions in place, how do we pick and choose from one solution versus the other one? These are all things that my team works on, as well as the tools that help support our engineers to do this work. In terms of the profession, in terms of the education needed to work in my profession, typically speaking, people do have electrical engineering degrees. I myself, however, do have a degree in software engineering. I started off programming full-time for Verizon. However, kind of as the years went on, I changed, moved positions here and there, and my programming duties, responsibilities are not what they used to be. But that being said, I still find that software engineering degree was immensely valuable to me, even in the position that I am today. It's really affected the way I think about problems, the way I approach problems, and generally speaking, the way I, go about problem solving. Which also I think is one of the more important skill sets that you can have, no matter if you're in engineering or not. Creative problem solving will always serve you well in life. Shifting gears a little bit, I want to talk about Verizon's response to COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic. If only because I was asked to answer some of these questions, but I will go into some of the things that Verizon's done that I am proud of them for doing, and their response to COVID-19. So they had a very proactive response to it in terms of how quickly they were able to get as many of their employees as possible to work from home. A lot of them are essential employees that work out in the field that help tend to cell sites and do maintenance and such, but for myself, I typically would sit in an office, and we've been working from home 100,000+ of us for since the middle of March or so, well before the bulk of states had stay-at-home orders. So they were doing this before they were forced to. Other things that they've done, that's for employees. They've done plenty of other things for employees, but for customers, they've provided an increased hotspot data usage, since they know more people will be using their hotspots working from home. They've also participated in programs to help students who do not have home internet, provide them hotspots that they can use so they can continue their studies. They have included nurses as part of their military and discounts. They have supported local businesses by purchasing food from these companies and then having that food delivered to hospitals for their nurses there, as well as their Pay It Forward program, which helps connect large businesses to large names to small businesses, and through forms of entertainment, and then that to be able to help them financially. They've got people to participate, such as Luke Bryan, Alicia Keys, and even DJ Marshmello playing Fortnite. So they kind of cover the spectrum there. In terms of choosing a degree or a field, a profession, what have you, there are a lot of things to take into consideration, I think. Pay, of course, is one of them. Everyone is interested in what they can make. I think other things that you should also, think about in terms of what kind of life you want to have, and what's important to you in life, whether that is time off, flexibility at work, if that's just pay, if it's making sure it's something that you enjoy doing, it's any number of things, right? I obviously can't tell you what's important or not, and every company is going to be different on time off, things of that nature. So what I can touch on is expected pay for engineers. And a lot of this you can Google and you can look at Glassdoor to get some ranges. But from my own experience in terms of what I know about people that have been hired on and starting positions, engineering positions at Verizon, you could probably expect to make between $65,000 to $70,000 as your base pay. And then in terms of how far up you can go and climb the ladder, if you go and look at our executive vice president, Ronan Dunn, in 2018, he made $850,000 base pay. And then when you looked at his total compensation, which included stock bonuses, regular bonuses, incentives, things of that nature, it was $6.7 million. And again, that can go up even higher. Our CEO made $18 million. So that's in terms of what you might expect for starting and ending salary. Granted, not everyone ends as a CEO. Just to take that into consideration. So, that being said, what are some things, like we talked about, the pros and cons, what's important to you and not important to you? And if I could change something about my job, what would I change? And I would definitely have less meetings. Due to the position that I'm in, since what standards I set affects so many people and has so many downstream consequences, that means we have to be very methodical about the changes that we put in and ensure that we have proper buy-in and buy-off from all the parties that are needed. And that means a lot of conference calls, which are not my favorite. But it is what it is. There are other RF engineering positions that are not requiring you to be on as many conference calls. So don't think that any engineering degree will put you on a ton. I think my specific position is probably an outlier, so don't get too afraid of conference calls. Something to take into consideration, I think, is, again, when you're thinking about jobs and degrees that you want to go into, is think about what it is now and try to do some research into what that position may look like in 5 to 10 years. Because you're probably at least 5 years out from graduating. So that being said, what does my industry look like in 5 to 10 years? We're already a telecommunications company, so you already know that by nature we're going to change it a lot in 5 to 10 years, whether it's the tools that we use, how we communicate, but I want to focus less about how my job changes in 5 to 10 years and just think about how the industry will change. So there's a lot of the easiest thing to speak about, both in how my industry will change and how that's going to affect other industries, is going to be the onset of 5G. There's a lot of things that we know will change from 5G and what it will bring to the table, and then there's just as many that we don't know. In terms of what we do know, we know that autonomous driving was going to happen no matter what, but we know that 5G will make it much better. It's going to help us for vehicle-to-vehicle communication and coordination between vehicles and their fleets, versus just a single vehicle going from point A to point B and navigating everything that's going on around it. If it could coordinate with all these other vehicles, you suddenly have a very much more robust system that you're using. Other things that will flourish, telemedicine will be a thing. You'll be able to do remote surgeries. What else? AR and VR. We have those today, but again, they will continue to get better, and 5G will support them in getting better faster. It's going to make them more scalable in terms of the solutions that they have. It's going to help to bring down the cost of these AR and VR devices, because it'll be able to help you move some of the processing off of the local device and into the cloud, so your hardware will be cheaper. And then there's just so many other things that we don't know that will change from 5G or just in general. One way to think about 5G is just think about it as another type of infrastructure. And so the old adage of saying, build it and they will come, is definitely true here. Before the internet was what it was, no one would have expected companies like Twitch or YouTube or TikTok to be what they are today and have the amount of money that's funneled into those industries. So I think we'll see a lot of new things come about from 5G as well. So that is a little bit about my position, my company. Hopefully you've learned something. If you've got any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to your teacher. They can most likely route you through the proper channels to get in touch with me, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have. Thanks, and have a great day or night, whichever.